Welcome back to the channel. If you've been following us for a bit, you know that we're not adverse to camping out in this sort of weather, but
it seems to be all that we've done for like 6 months. But not that I'm whinging.
You are always whinging, but we're set now for a few days of quite minusy weather, aren't we really?
It's going to go down to sort of -6, -7 over the next few days.
So we've decided that we'll come to a campsite and stay warm on electric. It's metered, so we're going to do a little experiment, because you know we like an experiment, to see how much it costs us, because we know how much it costs us for gas in these sorts of conditions, because we've done that experiment already.
You're full of gas.
It's so rude, it really is. So let's do our 3 or 4 day experiment, electricity on a meter in the cold.
I'm not ready for this winter weather. Feel the seconds ticking, nothing's getting any better.
I've got my new hat on.
It's a lovely hat.
Thank you very much. The cost per unit of electricity at campsites is a bit variable. So kilowatt hours is what they measure it in. I've seen and read sort of reports of it being upwards of 50 pence a kilowatt hour, which is really dear. We're on a site that's really fair, actually, 30 pence a kilowatt hour. You've got to remember that sites can't make a profit on selling electricity. They can include sort of an admin fee to cover their own costs, but the ability to sell and profit from selling utilities, you need a license and everything. So there you go, 30 pence a kilowatt hour.
We know it's going to cost us more than it would if we were on gas, because really in these temperatures we're probably going to spend about £5 or £6 a night on gas. So but big but
What's you brought your butt into it?
We're on a campsite and we really don't want to be moving every 2 days, 2 or 3 days to go and fill up. So
No.
we're going to just see how the electricity pans out and whether we should end up doing a blend of gas and electricity. And
Blend. That's worst of
I like
both
blends.
worlds.
I
though.
know, but gas keeps you warmer.
We're going to end up paying more to keep warm with electricity, but that's the price of convenience.
And that is the experiment.
That's my wise words.
-8 this morning. We thought we'd planned and prepared by filling the water up yesterday and then getting the waste sorted, but then we forgot to do the toilet.
Winter's from the earth, removed in frozen.
Now, we didn't put the silver screen on last night because we like the fact that this is our natural dehumidifier, but on nights like last night it does just freeze, so I need to let that thaw out and then I can vacuum it up.
Hang on a minute. Controversy.
Controversy? Us? Go on, what's the controversy?
The controversy is that there is a dichotomy of thought.
Oh, that's a posh word.
Oh, no. I've just been looking at the dictionary. There's a dichotomy of thought about silver screens. Come on then, scientist.
Well, it's all about thermal properties, isn't it? To have one or not to have one, and what does it do to your van? Explain, non-scientist.
Okay, right. Well, sometimes you use a silver screen and then we get up in the morning, windscreen doesn't need defrosting, piece of cake.
Not defrosting, doesn't need vacuuming. There's just no moisture there at all, is there?
Doesn't need vacuuming. And when we don't use the silver screen, usually it's all misted up and damp, and we get a Karcher window vac, other brands are available, and we hoover the inside of the windscreen before we set off.
Condensation.
Yes. And that condensation is caused by us being all hot and sweaty in our bed. No?
gross.
Is it not?
Just breathing, just normal breathing.
Heavy breathing. Like that. So all that moisture finds the coldest place in the van, usually the windscreen, condensers, then you get up in the morning, you've got to deal with it. And that's fine, it's easy. However, when you put your silver screen on, we are still generating, with our hot and sweaty breath, lots of moisture. So where does it go? It's got to find somewhere in the van, the coldest place of the van, to settle. And sometimes there's as much as 100 millilitres or more of water. So Jane refers to it as a natural dehumidifier. We actually like to let it settle on the windscreen, hoover it up, throw it out of the van and move on. Other people don't. There's a controversy.
Because at least we know where the water is, the moisture is, rather than it being down the back of the sofas or in cupboards.
And we therefore collect it and throw it out of the van. So,
Thoughts?
what do you think? What do you guys do? Some are going to use silver screens, others aren't. I don't know. Any advice? Comments?
And the other thing that's made it slightly worse for us at the minute is to keep as much heating as possible. We've also now started putting up a thermal screen between the cab and the van. That keeps the van warmer, but it makes the cab colder, so making that freeze, I think. It's the first time we've tried it.
We're trapping all the cold air inside the cab. It's not coming into the habitation part, so we're warmer in the back, but by default then the cab itself is colder. So that's only the second time ever it's frozen up, and that's been at temperatures sort of -8, -10. It happened once in Lapland. I mentioned comments earlier, so give us a comment if you got any other ideas. Thank you for all the previous comments we've had over the last couple of videos. There's been lots. It's been very banterful again. We like a bit of crack. And if you're watching and you've not subscribed, give us a subscribe. If you already have subscribed, thank you very much. And if you think this video is going to be useful for someone else, maybe give it a share or a like, because at the end of the day, we don't take YouTube too seriously, but if it helps someone else out, fair play.
Now back to
the exciting
montage of exciting meter readings
It's always exciting.
with lots of snowy scenes. So as you can see, the snow's all gone now and we're a little bit warmer, but we still need to work out whether it was more expensive to keep us warm on electricity or gas.
I think there's actually closer than you might think, I think.
Oh, you're not preempting the outcome of this experiment,
Yes,
are you?
I am, because I always know better.
Our only point of reference for metered electric was when we stayed at a campsite back in March. We stayed there for 3 nights, and over those 3 nights we used 10 kilowatt hours of electricity every day, which on this site's money would be £3 a day. So that's what we're going to use to compare sites.
Not to compare size.
To compare seasons. Go on then, you explain about our electricity usage then.
What do you mean?
The difference between now and then.
The difference between now and then is just the temperature. Last March, springtime, it was really quite mild, and the last week or so it's been up to or down to -7, -8. So we're in the van longer, so we'll use more lighting. We'll obviously use the heating and for a longer time, and we'll also use tank heaters. So we have a tank heater system, one for fresh water, one for wastewater. We flick a switch, and as long as there's water in them, when the temperature drops to below 5 degrees, the heater in each of the tanks will come on, and it'll use 2.5 amps per hour per tank. So quite hungry in energy.
And our amazing maths has worked out, and we'll put some calculations on the screen. We think that costs us about £1.70 for 10 hours per tank heater.
But I worked that out with my own brain, so it may well be, give or take, £5.
Because we know how good his estimations are.
What we did do, which is not what we normally do when we travel, we've got like an external waste tank. So what we did do is drain the waste and then leave it open So as water goes through, it goes right through the tank, right out and into an external container, so giving it less chance of freezing up, but also not using 2.5 amps per hour to keep it warm. So we don't normally do that, and I don't like doing that, because what I like to do is get 50% or more in the waste tank before opening it, and use the force of the water in one big deluge. Big word.
It was a big word.
One big deluge.
Deluge.
Thanks for correcting me. To flush the water out, and any nasties that are in there, any bits of sediment or any bits of food that we might have missed. But for the sake of keeping warm and not frozen, that's how we've chosen to do it this time.
And just a few other parameters, so that if you want to repeat this experiment, you can. Overnight, we don't keep our heating on. We put it onto frost protection. Sometimes when we wake up in the morning, it can be 4 degrees, which is pretty chilly.
Frost protection is just a minimal setting for the hot water system and the heating system. It doesn't warm the van as such. It just monitors temperature, and when it gets icy, or before it gets icy, it just puts minimum heat through all the various elements in the 2 units, not allowing them to freeze up.
But because the heating is under our bed, it keeps the bed longest really. It's the warmest place in the van, isn't it? So we can be quite cosy, and then we have to toss up to see who's going to go.
Our bed is very hot.
Who gets out of bed first to go and actually put the heating on?
Yes, all the ducting that circulates warm air around the van and the unit is under the bed, so it is a really snug place to be. The heating in the van doesn't have a digital readout of temperature. We find we turn it on, we know where to set it to give us the best temperature for us, and then we've bought some aftermarket thermometers, just part of the experiment really, to find how warm or cold the van is at any point.
And it's about 17 degrees. That's our comfortable place. We could have it warmer, but we don't need to. We just stick an extra jumper on.
It sort of fluctuates. It goes to 17, then goes up to sort of 18, then the heating kicks off and it drops back down to 17. And so it fluctuates around that 17, 18, 19 degrees.
Chilly now.
Well, here it is, some amazing facts and figures about our energy consumption. How much did it cost us for 3 days? Up to -8 or 9 degrees, keeping warm and doing as normal. We ain't taking the mickey, we just use it as you would.
Well, over the 3 days, we used 70 kilowatt hours of electricity, which at our costs on this campsite was £21.
For 3 days?
For 3 days. Now, bearing in mind, we estimate that about £5.86 estimated was because of the tank heaters.
Heater, because we only ran one tank heater.
It's very complicated, this. So, taking the tank heaters aside, if you don't have them, if we didn't have them, it would have been £5 a day. Which, when we started this experiment, we said that's how much we spend on gas if we'd have been off-grid using our gas for heating. So that in itself is an interesting fact for us.
Fascinating.
Based at 30 pence per kilowatt hour. So obviously if we were at a site that was more expensive, it would have cost us more than gas.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that the site that we're on at the minute, 30 pence a kilowatt hour, is really cheap. The current, and we're in January 2024, the current rate for, not for commercial,
for domestic
electricity is 29 pence a kilowatt hour. So that's a fair rate. If it had been 30, 40 pence, obviously we would have spent a lot more. But everything that we do is about having information. So without tank heaters, which costs us about £5 a day.
Because if we'd have been off-grid with using our gas, we'd have used our battery for the tank heaters. And that is obviously why we upgraded our solar and lithium, which is in the last video.
Yes.
Unashamed plug there.
Now, so
what does it mean for us now?
What does it mean? Yeah, what does it mean? It's information. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. It just helps us make a decision. So what decisions are we going to make?
Well, the pub stop we stayed at over New Year had a fixed rate of £10 a day for electricity,
wow,
irrespective of season. So that seems an awful lot of money when even in the deepest, darkest depths of winter, with tank heaters, we estimate £7 a day. So if you think about March, when we were on £3 a day, it's an awful lot of money. So I think for us it's just about, if we know our kilowatt hour usage per day, typical, so 10 spring and autumn, 23 winter,
up to -10.
and then summer we actually don't know, but obviously a lot less than 10. And we know what they're going to charge us, we can work out whether we think it's value for money and whether we're going to stay. And I think that's the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just as simple as that. If someone wants to charge a fixed rate of £5 or £10 for electricity, we know, depending on the time of year, what it's going to cost us as far as value. If they're on a meter, we know now winter and spring. We know how much we can work it out per kilowatt hour approximately what it's going to cost us, and that'll make a decision as to how we go forward. And maybe this will help you guys. I don't know.
It's going to help us.
It's not like a proper science energy audit, but to be fair, we've not took the mickey. We've just lived a van life for a few days how we normally would, and that's the cost.
No, see, I think we've been a little bit cautious, because we could have been a lot more frivolous with our
always
energy.
leaving lights on. So
Yeah, but you're always turn lights off.
If you turn lights off, we probably would have only used tons anyway.
Anyway, as you can see, Storm Aisha is on its way, so we're going to batten down the hatches and see if we survive the storms.
Thank you for watching. Hope it's been helpful, useful in our own little way, trying to get information about our experiences across.
See you next time.